Big one, actually. NRL is seeking to buy the Super League. The NRL will consider purchasing a 33% stake in the Super League, but wants complete administrative control from 2028 as it looks to expand the sport globally.
Yep.
The Sydney Morning Herald reports that in a secret meeting was held in Vegas earlier in the season between NRL bosses and the owners of Wigham and Warrington, Mike Danson and Simon Moran, where the plan, which includes the control contingency, was discussed. What do you boys think of Andrew Abdo and Peter V'landys looking at taking over the English Super League?
I love it.
Love it.
I love it. Yeah, I think it's great.
Especially looking at what they've done for our league over the past 10 years. Or has it been 10 years since they've been in charge?
Yeah, anywhere between about 6 to 10, something like that.
Record attendance numbers, TV ratings to the roof. Because of that, the salary cap is increased and all teams have been better since. Like, if they were to go and take over the Super League, especially when we want to make the game a bit more worldwide, especially entering the American market, I think improving the European market would be instrumental in that.
Yep. No, I agree. I love it. To be honest with you, I think this is the correct way to go. Yeah. We do know that there are a bunch of clubs in the Super League that are struggling financially. Salford Red Devils are on the brink of collapse. Yep. There's been a lot of things I've been reading recently where they can't even afford to pay their players. Wow. A lot of players have dropped out. A lot of players have been released because they just can't afford to pay them. They've gone completely downhill. Bradford Bulls, a team that was a staple in the Super League for so long, who has been in the relegated league for quite a bit of time now. They've also been struggling financially as well. Other clubs like London Broncos, everything else. Now, from what I've understood as well, is that should the NRL buy the Super League, excuse me, what they're looking to do is they're going to look to create a new style competition where they'll have 6 teams in England, or 8 teams in England, and then 2 teams in France. Because at the moment they've got Catalans. Yeah. So they'll increase by 1 team in Toulon, and then they will go in and then they'll increase the Super League teams by 2 or keep it at where it's at, and then have that be the league.
So there would only be 8 teams in the league?
8 teams in England and 2 teams in France. So it'll be a 10-team league with that relegation process continuing, I believe. Yeah. And I believe that there's been some CEOs as well from here. I believe the Rabbitohs CEO is one of them, Blake Solly. I believe he's been interested in wanting to purchase stakes in certain clubs over there as well. Yeah. You're right. We have to grow the game. If the Super League dies, then it deteriorates what the game is trying to do to go globally. Yeah. We're trying to do all this stuff international. And we talked last episode, Ray, about the Ashes. Yeah. And trying to make it a big spectacle there for the 3 games they're doing at the end of the year. If Super League dies, the attraction to the Ashes series also dies as well.
It's true.
So we've got to keep the game thriving in England. Yeah. And you look at it as well. I don't know if you've noticed, but, anytime you watch a Super League game, for the crowds that they get, it's a lot lower than obviously what's expected sometimes in NRL. Sometimes it almost matches, but the fans are rowdy. Yeah,
the fans there are great. Like, having been to England and been to a soccer match there, I don't think it'll take much for them to fall in love with rugby league and the atmosphere that will bring. Especially when you get all once they start getting big hits and the skillful moves that they get going on with some of the players, like flick passes and cut out part. Like, it's a great game to watch. And if they put a bit more money into it, a bit more promotion into it, I don't think it'll take much for those English fans who are very passionate about their sports. Like, they live and breathe sport over there. It's mainly football, but they would also have to try and plan their season around that to try and make sure they don't take anything. Yep. Because if they're just going to go head to head with it, they're going to lose. Yeah. Right. But if they can try and accommodate their schedule with the English Premier League, I think there's an untapped market there where the game can grow.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. And you know what, for me as well, I really think that by purchasing stakes into the Super League, we're talking about growing the game. The thing that I love about this the most is that, like you said, V'landys and Abdo have a history of turning the game around. Yeah. And we've seen it now. We've seen what he's done for the NRL. But another thing for me is that what was mentioned as well, Ray read out earlier, was that the TV rights. We've got the next deal coming up ending in 2027. Yeah. If we can get a deal where if in that time between now and 2027 that the NRL do purchase the Super League and buy like a 33% stake into it, or if it's more or whatever it is, and then they bring that in. They start marketing that bit by bit, and obviously it's not going to be an overnight, growing. But they start marketing it enough that it actually involves, those big, those streamers like Netflix and all those to come in and then to have a look and invest a little bit more into England.
Yeah.
It blows it up more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the most important part. And I think by NRL showcasing the Super League at Vegas was also a big part of that as well. I think that was a really good start. I don't think the NRL realized how well they did by adding Super League to that.
Yeah.
Because now if they look to purchase their Super League, mate, it can only get better from here. And we've spoken before as well. Vlandis is going to, by the end of the year, quit either horse race, like leading the racing industry, or the NRL.
Yeah.
And with the way he's been talking, the way he's been looking, there's still so much unfinished business in the NRL he wants to do. Yeah. And buying Super League, I really think that's a big part of it.
And he also wants to keep going into the American market as well.
That's right.
So there's so many projects where he's such a good businessman where he will want to where the biggest challenge is. And I don't think horse racing will have as big of a challenge because he moved, not the Melbourne Cup, he's got Everest in Sydney. So that was his biggest accomplishment because it's the biggest race day in Sydney. But tapping into the American market in footy would be massive.
Yeah.
And I think it's a massive challenge that he would welcome and he would love.
And I think it'll any way to grow the game and make it international.
Yeah.
And you could turn a lot of those fans that watch rugby union in England to whichever ones that do, turn them straight into NRL.
Yeah.
And mate, like they've got exciting players over there. Bevan French, Jai Field, to name a few, who are just absolute excitement.
It's great to watch. I love watching Super League.
I love it.
If it's on, I'll put it on. It's so entertaining.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. And there are so many players from NRL that go to Super League. But the problem is as well is that the salary cap there hasn't increased in years. Adrian Morley came and spoke about that not long ago. The salary cap hasn't increased in years. So clubs are struggling to attract talent to go overseas. So that's another big part of it as well. So if the NRL can get control of that, start increasing the salary cap, start to make that a bit more, accommodating for NRL players, a lot more will go. And we've seen a lot go in the time, but a lot more will go and, earn those bigger pay if they go. So, look, I think it's a great idea and I think the NRL should capitalise.
Yeah, I think this is the route they should be going, mate. Like, I know they've been putting a lot of effort into the US market. There's a market already there in the UK. Drive after that, push after that, and that's how you make the game grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a must. If NRL don't buy into this and the Super League dies, then the game in England dies and it'll be hard to come back and recover.
For sure.